First up, he's the Democratic senator from Hawaii and chief deputy whip of the Senate Democratic Caucus, Brian Schatz. Senator. Hello, Senator. Great to meet you. Great to see you. And you're here on a very slow news day.
My goodness.
Yeah. So, you're a senator. I've got to ask you right off the bat, what do you think about us going into Syria like this?
Sure. Well, first of all, we don't exactly know what the operation is, but the first thing we need to be concerned about is we had about 2,000 American service members, so we pray for their safety. The second question that I have, and I don't think we know the answer to that, is that the way it was phrased was that this may be an open-ended commitment, in which case they have to come to the Congress and get a new authorization of the use of military force.
As of now, it is just an air war, though, right?
Right, but they're talking about a willingness to sustain this over time, and if they do that, there is no way that this is authorized by the 2001 AUMF. That was designed to go after al-Qaeda and affiliated groups, and Bashar al-Assad, bad guy, awful dictator, murderer, but it's not authorized until you go to the Congress. And the last thing I'll say is that, we all saw those images of those kids being gassed, and I think it touches all of us. But the thing that the American government ought to do is what we've always done, which is take refugees in. I was on the
How many?
Well, we should take in as many as we possibly can. Look, these are children.
But how many is that? Germany took 1 million.
Well, listen, I'm not sure how many we need to be taking in, but I was on the Syria-Jordan border at the Zatari refugee camp, and these are children, these are families. They are no threat to America. What is a threat to America is the idea that we reject these people because they don't look like us. So if we're committed to taking care of these children, a military operation may be necessary tonight, but our commitment to refugees is what we need to focus on.
So, if you were running for president, would you say that was one of our priorities, to worry about refugees?
I think we should worry about refugees. I'm not running
What I'm saying is a
but
priority. I mean, I'm talking about the people in America who are thinking, well, we have other issues and other problems, right?
Well, I think we can walk and chew gum at the same time. I really think that at some point, one of the things that people are really frustrated with Democrats about, I think, is that we have pollsters come to us and tell us how, in what rank order to talk about things. And if refugees poll number 11, then we stop talking about it. And I think as a matter of principle,
what about Russia?
Well,
I've heard a lot of Democrats say, well, people really aren't concerned about Russia that much, and therefore I don't think Democrats prosecute the issue so much. And I don't know. If you can't make treason an issue, I don't know why you're even a party.
Well, I agree with you on that. I think that, listen, there's no way when you poll something and you ask a person whether they care about their own health care or their own tax situation or their ability to afford college, whether, Russia's not going to penetrate that top 2 or 3. But that doesn't matter. What matters is
But isn't it your job to make it?
Well, I'm agreeing with you. I think we have to be the party of the rule of law because the other party is not the rule of law, is not the party of the rule of law. And I think it's really important for us to just occasionally do something because it's right, even though right now it doesn't poll sort of high on our little priority list. But one of the things that happened, I think, in the last election is Democrats paint by numbers. They get told what to say, and they say it in the fashion that they're told to say it and in the order that they're told to say it. And I think what people were frustrated by in terms of Democratic leadership is that we don't look like we're working from our gut. And I think the operation of law and the rule of law is something we ought to run on. We also have to run against their attempts to repeal health care. We also have to run against their terrible tax cut, which is the only major tax cut in American history that's still unpopular. And we also have to run on making college more affordable. But that doesn't mean we can't prosecute the case around the rule of law.
So if this bombing campaign in Syria, the president, I just saw him, he spoke only about a half hour ago, said it's going to go on in a more sustained level than the one he did before, which is only 1 day. Is there a time when you would say time's up on this?
I think he gets a day or two to run a couple-of-day campaign, and after that he has to come to the Congress and ask for an authorization of the use of military force. There is no scenario, either legally or in terms of our geopolitics, under which this should be authorized by the 2001 AUMF. We've got to go back to the Congress. We've got to get back to the role that we used to play in terms of prosecuting foreign policy. One thing that he said, which I liked, which I'm sure was written for him, was that was that he was going to use every instrument of American power, including diplomacy. And I think that to the extent that we have a theory of the case in the Middle East, it has to include staffing up the State Department and understanding that we are strongest when we use our diplomatic power.
Okay. I know that you were on the committee this week that was interviewing Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
How'd you find him? Looked like a real nerd to me.
Listen, I thought he did fine. I think there's kind of two ways to look at this. First of all, they did not recognize that their platform was used by a foreign government to kind of hijack at least a portion of our election. But that's kind of, to me, separate and apart from the broader question around Facebook, Google, and these tech companies, which are so ubiquitous and so large that we really have to think about what kind of federal regulation that there's going to be for these tech companies. I'll give you an example. Google and Facebook consume about 61% of all online ad revenue, and that number goes up and up and up. And everybody uses all of these tech platforms, whether it's aviation or shipping or cars or telecom. We all have a separate statute to govern how they operate. These guys are operating in the wild, wild west, and that just can't continue.
Well, that's my next question. Can it continue? What is the Congress going to do? Because it looked to me like you talked to him. He gave you a lot of the answers that you wanted to hear. And I don't know what's going to happen next. But you're right. Not only are they a media company, they're the biggest media company by far.
Well, I think what we ought to do is two things. First, what the European Union does is give individual consumers a right to their own data, to control their own data. And I think all tech platforms ought to adopt the EU approach to that, to basically say, if you're going to monetize my data, I have the ability to see what you have on me. And I have the ability to delete it because it's my data, it's my information, and it's a right to control the data that people are using about you. The second concept that I think is really interesting, and we're pursuing it right now, is the idea of an information fiduciary. So just like a financial advisor is supposed to put themselves in your shoes, I think tech companies ought to be able to ought to be required to put themselves in your shoes when they're controlling your data. They are monetizing our data. They are watching you online. They're making lots of money. I think it is incumbent on them to utilize that data in a way that takes care of our privacy. That is not something they're going to do voluntarily. That's something we have to pass a law for.
All right. Senator, thank you so much for your state's hospitality. I spend every New Year's there, and I wouldn't miss it for the world. Thank you.